Thank y'all for being here. Just finished practice 10. Camp runs through the 21st for us. And so give you an idea, tomorrow we just finished a shells practice. Tomorrow we'll be in full pads back in the stadium. Wednesday will be a little bit lighter practice. And then Thursday is a non-practice. Friday will be very similar to today on the practice fields. And then Saturday we'll be back in the stadium. Probably try to get about 100 plays live. Then come back the following Monday and Tuesday, and then wrap up with our mock game Wednesday night under the lights on the 21st. So that's kind of our schedule. Prepping for the season, not getting into any first game stuff. We gotta prepare for a grueling. Really, it's a 14-week regular season now. So I think this week it's a big prove it week, and kind of what I talked to the team about is this is the hardest week that we'll have this season. It's the most physical week we're going to have this season. And can we do hard things better? And we got to prove it. You know, who can we count on? Who are the newcomers that are going to play? You know, who are the guys that are kind of stepping up from maybe a backup or a special teams guy? Now they're going to step to the forefront. Or can we count on them? It'll prove it this week. You know, who are our go-to guys going to be? Like, who are we going to call a blitz for? Who are we calling a line movement for to create a play on the defensive line? Like, who can we count on to play some man coverage? Who can we count on? Offense, who are we going to call plays to? Who are we trying to get the ball to on third down? Like, who are we trying to get touches to? Who can we run behind? You know, who are the leaders on the team? You know, I think when hard things happen and you go out and you have to practice and you know, we had a nice, cool day today. I wish it was 95. You know, I wish we can make it as hard as possible because I think that's when the leadership really shows up. And so it's a prove it week. It's a second week of camp. Everybody in the country is going through the same thing. You know, how can we do it better than the people we got to play? And so that's the question. So with that, questions, Greg?
So Saturday scrimmage, what'd you see? Good, bad? And give us a little analysis.
Yeah, so I thought the defense started off really well, which was a positive. I'll talk defense first, and I'll move over to offense, and I'll talk some special teams. Defense started fast. I thought our D-line was much more effective Saturday than they were Tuesday. They did a nice job. You know, I thought our linebackers played their run better, still not good enough, but better. And then I thought offensively slow start, and then came out and finished the scrimmage really well. We put a lot of pressure on the quarterbacks, you know, trying to throw the football, maybe more so than we normally would. We were efficient throwing the ball. We were good in the red zone offensively. Defensively, we weren't bad in the red zone, but we didn't. The one thing is we didn't create any takeaways down there. That's something we've really talked about. But as far as I thought we played on offense, just inconsistent. The good was really good, and then there was times we didn't look like a veteran outfit like we are. Defensively, we weren't able to maintain the energy from the start, which is something we're going to have to do. Special teams, you know, right now what you do on special teams is it's hard to evaluate the whole unit because you're trying to figure out who you're going to play with. So you really look at individuals who did well, and I thought some guys made some strides on special teams. So there was a mix. You know, it wasn't one-sided by any means. It was a mix. You know, I thought our guys responded for the, you know, minus a few of them responded pretty well today. You know, we went for 110, 115 plays on Saturday. We started at 7:30 and went for a good bit. Now the test is tomorrow, because we're going to put pads back on and go back in the stadium and play a bunch of game-like situations.
Neal, how do you mentioned seeing who steps up and becomes leader. How do you, I guess, without the benefit of hot weather, how do you kind of simulate adversity in practice?
Yeah, so you just put people in situations. You know, like offensively today, we started our team segment with a coming off. We put the ball on like the 4-yard line, and you try to pin them back. You know, we did a sudden change defensively. They, you know, had to go them out, and the ball's on the 21-yard line, and you got to put it out. So I think it's more about, you know, putting guys in real situations and playing it, creating adversity when you don't have any. You know, so that's how you do it. You know, the good thing is it's easier to do that when you have competition we don't have competition at every position, but we got it in a lot. You know, you think about it, D-line, we feel really good. We could go, you know, I think 7, 8 guys right now we feel really good about. That's competition. Like, if you don't play, you know, I talk to them about it all the time. The best kind of ability is availability. You know, if you want to be counted on, you got to practice. You got to practice every day. Because the only way you're going to get better in this game, this is a practice sport. You know, that we play 12 guaranteed games. Hopefully you can play 15, 16, whatever it is. But we practice a lot. And so you got to be available to practice, and that's where you get better. You look at linebackers. We got 5, 6 guys maybe that are competing for 2 and 3 spots. You know, in the defensive backfield, we got more players back there than we've ever had. And then you got the flexibility defensively where, okay, we can play, you know, we can play 3 linebackers instead of playing, you know, a 5th DB. Okay, or we can play dime and take one of the linebackers out. Or we can play our base, you know, which is 3 downs and a spur and 5 DB. So, and we can mix it up, but we're going to put the best players out there, you know. And offensively, it's the same way. Like, we got to figure out, like, you know, we're better with 2 backs in the game. We're better with 2 tight ends. We're better with 3 receivers, 1 back, 1 tight end. You know, and I think it goes back to find the combination to play the game the way we want to play it, which is we want to play the game where we have discipline in all 3 phases. We want to be extremely tough, mentally, physically. We want to strain, and we want to play smart football. And the guys that can do that, and none of those require talent. So the guys that can do that are the guys who will figure out how to play.
You mentioned the depth on the defensive line. Some of those young guys, are you starting to see what you wanted to see out of them at the start of camp?
Well, I think the guy that's really there's 2 guys that have kind of played above everybody else to this point. That's T.J. Jackson, who's been a great addition. Man, he plays with a motor, and you saw that on his film at Troy. He's fun to coach. And Eddie V, you know, Eddie V's played that way for his whole career. And now he's stronger. He's gained a little weight. Those 2 guys have been active. Sean had a better end of the week, you know, and I think there's another step for him to take too. And then, you know, we've got to figure out, like, Hammond Russell's really making a move. He played his best football he's ever played in his career on Saturday. But we need some other guys to come on. Asani Redwood practiced today. Today was the first day he was full go. We need him. We need Elijah Kinsler. We need Nate Gabriel. We need some of those guys to come through and really, you know, Asani needs to play a big role. We need some of those young guys, first-year players, to play supporting roles.
On the offensive side, are there any players in particular that stood out? You said it was inconsistent, but in terms of individual players,
I
thought individual players that stood out in a good or bad way.
Yeah, I thought let's start up front. You know, and Yates really pushed through. He got banged up a little bit on Friday, but came out and played every scrimmage rep. So I was proud of him. He's continuing to improve. I think Xavier Bosley and Sully Weedman are guys that are making some strides. So that's been exciting to see. Johnny Williams is getting better. And then I think out wide, we really tried to, you know, Jaden Bray. We got a bunch of touches too. I'm excited about him as a football player. He's going to be one of our better special teams players also. Yeah, I think the 2 freshman running backs had nice days, you know, for limited carries. They both had some positive runs, Dior and Dunbar.
You mentioned special teams. Kickoff return was an area I know you thought you wanted to improve. Have you found a kickoff returner yet?
In process. So, like, we're working Hudson a lot back there. He breaks tackles. He's got good straight line speed. Jaden Bray's working back there as well. You know, those are the 2 guys. Working some bigger off returners also that, you know, if people want to kick to them, we feel better about it. We feel better about the back end than we have at this point, you know, in several years.
Bray, what specifically do you like about where he's come?
First of all, he plays the game really hard.
Okay.
He's coachable. You know, he ran down 21+ miles per hour the other day on a kickoff, and that's special. He's really good at the gunner on punt. I think he's going to be elite at that. You know, I thought he used his body well in offense. He made a couple plays down in the red zone where he went up and used his length. So those are some real positives for him.
With the offense now, is that still
I think it's a work in progress. You know, like he probably has more missed assignments than I would like, you know, for a guy that was here in the spring. But when you play as hard as he does, you can kind of overlook that.
Where's Rodney at? You with his development?
Yeah, he's playing both. Yeah, he's been really since about practice 4, splitting both. He may be our best man defender right now. You know, he's gonna play today. We really put some pressure on him and played him in a bunch of run scenarios where he had to tear off blocks and play the run. You know, we really hadn't asked him to do that to this point, but when he's going to play on that side of the ball, he's going to have to do that. So I need to watch the film, see how he did. Offensively, man, he had 2 really nice runs in the catch and runs in the scrimmage on Saturday. He's looking more fluent as a receiver too. And I'm proud of him because we're putting a bunch on him mentally, and he's spending extra time here to make it going both ways work.
In evaluating all of this, which is obviously a lot, is it kind of like evaluating film from a regular game? I mean, you can see, hey, those guys were in there, we popped this big play, great. But looking at all of the individual players, assistants got to look at the film, everything, grade that, get back together to get that whole picture.
Yeah, when you get to this point, there's a lot of film, and we're two spotting everything, which you guys, when y'all been out there, you've seen, and you do that is because like all guys kind of their trajectory on how they develop is different. You know, we may have some guys that aren't necessarily ready right now, and especially guys that play physical positions that are close to the combat area. But they may be ready in late October, early November. And so with the redshirt rule, the way it is, you want them to log these reps, you know, quality reps within your system, your base systems that you're installing during fall camp. So when they are physically ready, they really have those reps to fall back on. That's the hope. But there's a ton of video. You know, every single day there's a ton of video. And so that's good, you know. And now that more individuals in the building can coach, we can split those meetings up. Where everybody's getting an opportunity to watch themselves and make the corrections and develop at their own pace. So that is a positive. When you sit back like today, as a head coach, like you don't want to go out and see one side be dominant. Now that happens, you know, like Friday's practice, the defense won going away. You know, in Tuesday's practice early in the week, the offense won it going away. Like, that's not really what you want to see. Today was closer to what you would like to see. It was a much cleaner practice. We were in shells, very few guys on the ground. You know, I thought it ebbed and flowed. Offense won some periods, defense won some periods. When you start playing better football, that's what it looks like. You know, I think there's a big difference, and I talked to our staff about this a bunch. There's a big difference between what a quality offensive play looks like and what an offensive play that was successful because of negligent defense. And the flip side is true too. There's a major difference in what a quality defensive play looks like compared to what a negligent offensive play looks like, right? You know, if the offensive guy goes the wrong way and the D-line makes a tackle, yeah, it's a tackle for a loss, but did he really get better? Probably not. You know, and so that's kind of what you got to look at as you're evaluating.
Question, and you kind of alluded to it as well, all the extra assistance. How much does that help break down film, especially coming off a scrimmage, or can it potentially put too many voices, too many opinions in a room?
Nah, it's like we've been preparing for this, so the breaking down film doesn't change at all. That was something they could do for a long time. It's more about the attention in a walkthrough and in a meeting. So to give you an example, like I think I've used this before, it's all about your student to teacher ratio or coach to player ratio for us. And so when we go to walkthrough, we don't have a bunch of people standing in the back. You know, we can break it up. And so maybe we have our guys that are in our developmental group, man, they go down and they walk through some things on air, offense and defense, while the guys that are preparing that are ready to play right now, those guys are walking through looks we're going to see as we move through the season, you know, because that's kind of what we do in our walkthrough settings. Or, you know, we have a bunch of film, so we're two spotting. So we've got one group that's going on one field, another group's going on the other field. So when we come in and we after we watch the film together as a staff, now taking offensive line, for example, you've got one group that Matt can be with, and you got another one that Ryan Alexander and Jens Danielson can be with. You know, so now during that same hour meeting, the guys are getting really detailed instructions on the plays that they're getting. And I think over time, you know, maybe not one day, maybe it doesn't matter, but I think over the course of the 21 days that we're in fall camp, that's going to make a significant difference, because if you're coaching and you're walking through and you're getting full speed reps, there should be a lot of learning that's taking place there, and I think it'll help us as we move forward.
You know, you're about a week or two away from
Yep.
making your decisions, and these guys prove it week and the likes. How intense do those meetings get when you get down to making decisions, and what do you base it on?
Yeah, so a lot of times those things don't happen in meetings because we try to give really clear feedback day to day. And so we're talking about these guys are graded from a percentage basis and a production basis every time. Like we treated in our minds, our we're trying to college football is getting more like the NFL, and so we've adopted that during preseason camp. So that was exhibition game number 1. That was preseason game number 1 on Saturday. We got preseason game number 2 coming up this Saturday. And, man, we are just like the NFL teams are cutting their roster. And, like, we're not cutting anybody, but we're building up who's going to play. And there's not a whole lot of gray area in it. And here's what your grade was from a percentage standpoint. That's your effort, your alignment, your assignment. Here's what your production looks like. And your production basically is, did you make a play? When you were in a position to make a play, did you make a play? And so it's real clear from anytime we're in any type of team setting, what the performance was. And so by the time we get to Wednesday the 21st after our mock game and we start our Penn State prep that following day, there's not a whole lot of gray area. Like, sometimes when you have a quarterback competition, you got to have a hard conversation. But for the most part, hey, this is what it looks like. This is where we're at. And you may, of the 22 starting positions, you may have 3 or 4 that are tough conversations about. But for the most part, it's pretty clear who's playing. And then the way the game's played now, very few positions, you play every snap. So there's a ton of rotation. We're going to be more personnel-based defensively, so we're going to play more sub-packages than we have in the past. So more people are going to play on that side of the ball. And so I don't know if that really answered your question because it's really not – there's not a whole lot of – I mean, we're trying to – like, I'll give you an example just because I'm not trying to avoid the question. Like, who's going to be our third running back? We know who the first 2 are. Who's going to be the third? Tight end. Who's going to be the third tight end? We know who the first 2 are. Who's going to be the third? Those are – then you make a decision about who's playing. The tougher deal is when you have to make a travel roster. So whatever that looks like, Oklahoma State, when we have to have a legitimate travel roster, that's when those are some hard conversations about who's not going because we have to get down to 70.
What role does your gut play?
I think so. Yeah. I think what you have to be careful of as a coach is, and I constantly think about this, is as a coach, your crutch is experience, but hungry talent can overcome experience. And so that's kind of the inner battle because from experience, kind of what you got, but maybe you got a younger player that's more talented. You're a little unsure, especially when you come out of the box or you come out of the preseason and you got to be ready to go. And, like, it's not like, I said it several, we're not easing into it. And so as a coach, you still, regardless of who you're playing, you really got to say, okay, hey, even though a guy's got some experience, let's not forget that hungry talent will overcome that. And it may be a little bit later, but it's going to eventually overcome it. So those are kind of the things you kind of fight with inwardly as a coach.
Is there a factor, because you're not easing into it and it is Penn State and that big of a deal in terms of these battles that
you got to trust.
Yeah,
like you got to trust. That's, Bob asked this. I mean, you got to trust your gut a little bit too, and you got to do a really good job of creating some pressure situations within practice. And then you got to part of the high school evaluation. Like if it's a freshman we're talking about or a transfer, like part of that evaluation process is how they handle, pressure situations. I think trying to give you a good freshman example here. Like Brandon Raymond. Brandon Raymond's got a really good chance to play as a freshman. I mean, he's played in 3 state championship games. You know what I mean? Like he's played and he's had to go out there and play when it really, really matters. And I've got the receivers written down here. Like defensively, give you an idea. TJ Jackson, he's a transfer, but he's logged a ton of snaps. He's played 2 conference championship games. Those are both 12 o'clock ESPN kicks. He's had to play under the light. When it's bright. So just like that's how you kind of weigh it. Like if they've performed well, even if it hadn't been on your team, if they've had to do that. Like I've used the example I think I told you before with Rodney. He had to step up in the whippeal and hit free throws in Pitt's arena, and all eyes were on him. Now he's going to handle this all right, So he just kind of used some evaluation tools too.
Applying that to the calendar, when does it start? Next week after the scrimmage? Say again. Applying what you're talking about to a calendar. Does this start?
No, we've been trying to put them in pressure situations the whole time, yeah. And we'll do simple stuff too, like just one-on-ones in front of the group or with the punter. I'll tell them, hey, we're going to do a pooch punt, and I'll usually tell them in our team meeting pre-practice, hey, we're going to do a pooch punt. If you put it inside the 8-yard line, then we're not going to run. If it's outside the 8, we're going to run. So, like it or not, they're going to think about it the whole time. And, we'll do a kickoff challenge, where, hey, we're going to do a deep left, and you've got to perform a deep left or there's going to be something. So you try to put them where all eyes are on them. And you can do it in a meeting room too, where you put a little pressure on them, whether it's answering questions, making them talk, anything that gets somebody out of their comfort zone, I think helps. And it tells, it tells a little bit of, are they going to be ready? Is it too big for them? And then there's some guys that if they fail, you better tee them up the next time to make sure it works, because you want them to be ready, right? And like confidence is a big piece of it. Somebody was at, was that Mike?
It's been a couple of days. I was just curious about Lathan and Wilson. They get back there Saturday.
Yeah, so Lathan's practice. Wilson, I'm hoping Wednesday, I think will be his day. I'm hoping he'll be out there Wednesday. Lathan missed one day. He's practiced. He's been out there in a green jersey, so I don't know. He's ahead of schedule overall. And it's really kind of when he feels like he's at full strength. He had an upper body injury that he's done a great job recovering from. And when he feels like he's at full strength, he can cover fine. It's more about coming in there, tackling, and tearing off a block.
And then your cat safety, that's probably the one spot. I guess Wilson not playing, that's maybe opened up a little bit. But there's been a couple people back there. Mm-hmm. How is that progressing?
That's one of our open competitions. I think KK is making a move there. We're going to have some position flex where some other people can play back there. I think Burks is going to have to give us some snaps there. But Jaheim Joseph can flip and play, but KK's the guy that's getting the most snaps there right now. That's open. Yeah, open competition. Nate Flower has done really well, and he's putting some pressure on Mike there, and so we'll see how that plays out.
RJ is not.
No, RJ, he's a field goal guy, but RJ probably had his worst day today, but I don't know if he missed a kick until today. So he's been really good too, and putting some pressure on Mike for that field goal job too.
Bray didn't play hardly any special teams, I think.
Who said that?
Bray.
Yeah, he did. He played on
times.
Yeah, like punt block for them a little bit.
Like this, but
I think he's got a chance to be he's got a really good chance to be an NFL player. And so special teams are important, and they're important other places too. I'm not, but I look at it from the player's perspective sometimes too. We want to have the best special teams units we can, and we're not going to do anything that hurts our football team, but we also want to put guys in position to put stuff on film. And so that's the hope for him, is some of these opportunities on special teams. I really think from a scouting perspective, the guys at the next level are going to be impressed, and that's going to help him.
Is it hard to have those conversations with players? Because that might be like an extra chore and just a drag or something.
We try to, Mike, what we try to do is just educate them on the process. You think about it, man, the active roster on Sundays is 46. And for a receiver, so whoever's the big contract guy is not going to play on special teams, and maybe the second guy, depending on if they got heavy money invested in two of them. But 3 through 6, they better be dudes on special teams. And so I think if you can educate them where and I'm using receivers as an example, but it's the same thing on D-line. You look at those guys that are maybe 4 through 8, they're playing on special teams. So you just educate them, hey, 46 on game day every Sunday, you got to figure out where you're going to fit. And so our guys to a man have bought in pretty well on that too.
defensive play in the red zone when you've put such an emphasis on improving offensively going?
Yeah, we've just been practicing a lot. I mean, we've practiced it a lot, and there's days where we emphasize the pass. There's days where we emphasize the run. We've played a ton of third and fourth downs down inside the 15 because I think a lot of times in our league that's where the games are. And so, you know, the thought is improvement through repetition. You just get used to playing down there.
On the flip side to that, in terms of improving the red zone, obviously Cole's a target there, but now you have two other veteran, similar big body receivers. How do you weigh, we have so many options here, but we also don't want to take away from Cole in those opportunities you're mentioning for the future?
No, I think that's kind of what the next, you know, from here to Wednesday is about, is Justin Robinson. You know, we're giving him, you know, there's a lot of plays that he's playing down there. Jaden Bray, you know, those are, when you get bigger body guys like on third and short to medium, or when you get inside the 15-yard line, when you don't have as much room, those guys that have some characteristics that that are unique. They're big and they're strong. So yeah, they're definitely, we're trying to figure that out right now. There's been some ups and downs. Justin missed a couple plays on Saturday, but he also made 2 down there, and so probably consistency for him.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thanks guys.